Greetings, everybody. This is another edition of the Megiddo Rising News Report, and got a very strong, sobering next couple of videos that's going to fall in line with today's happenings, more so on a spiritual level and also on the physical level as well, because the spiritual transcends into the physical, and we have to remember that. Been an interesting week, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, after the elections and stuff like that, you have seen a scourge of people, of purchases of guns and ammo and stuff like that. People know what's going on. They're not blind to it. We're looking at the aspect of civil war in this, in this nation. We're looking at the aspect of World War III in this nation, and also the world, the rest of the world. And quite frankly, we are a failed nation. Over and over again, there's been warnings, there's been shouts to turn, and it hasn't happened. We have failed on every front. Just like Nineveh did. They repented, but then they turned back to their wicked ways. And we are, quite frankly, mirroring that. We failed in the aspect of evangelism, where we are now going out into the world preaching false doctrine, where we are supposed to be going out into the world preaching Christ and Christ crucified, the true gospel, except we are preaching another gospel. We have rejected the law of God, the commandments of God, and His statutes. And Mene Tekala Parsin. The kingdom is divided, and we have been weighed in the measures and found. We have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. And there's no turning back from it. It's done. It's done. The handwriting's on the wall. And there's no turning back from it. There's two groups. We have those that who are seeking out their own salvation with fear and trembling, true believers, and we have the world. And we are on the fast track to the Great Tribulation period. And we're going to have to deal with it, because these things were prophesied to happen, and they are happening. One thing I'm going to talk about in this session is this whole Proposition 37, and then we're going to go into some scriptures here. This Proposition 37, which was to label all of, to have all labels labeled GMO, GMO labeling, but it failed. And this is definitely something that, because I'm looking at the article from Natural News, and I'm like, looking at it, and if there isn't any evidence of voter fraud with this, I don't know what is, because I find it hard to believe that millions and millions of people in California would not want to know what's in their food. Okay? it just doesn't make sense to me. You would think that this would be a landslide passing, but no, it failed. You know, because according to National News, Proposition 37 appears to have failed at the ballot box in California. According to the California Secretary of State ballot measures results, the GMO labeling ballot measure, which would have required food companies to label the GM content of foods, was defeated with the use of over $45 million in fraudulent advertising and dirty tricks funded by Monsanto, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, Kellogg, General Mills, DuPont, Bayer, and other food and pesticidal companies. So, and I'll post a link to that below. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, how could this have failed? Well, simply be put that, number one, there's voter fraud. And number two, we're under strong delusion. You know, people don't really care. You know, but at the same time, you look at this and it's like, you can't believe that there would be a failure of this proposition because people voted on it. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, so I personally don't believe that this was a fair election or a fair procedure on the voting situation regarding Proposition 37. Because I just cannot see how people do not want to know what's in their food that they're consuming. But that's what I wanted to share with you on that front. Now, over and over again, we look at these prophecies in the Old Testament, and we tend to see that we have a tendency to look at them just on the surface. And like if it's dealing with a specific country, we tend to look at that as, well, that's for over there. Well, but we never like to look at things of how it could be affecting us over here. We have to understand that prophecies come multi-layered, folks. 30, 60, 100-fold measures. Okay? And it's not just dealing with a nation over yonder. It's not just dealing, it can also be dealing with us over here. Okay, and all you have to do is really read the specific passages and you will be able to figure it out. Again, the handwriting is on the wall. Mene, mene, tekala parsin. The kingdom is divided. We have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. And there is nothing going to hold it back. We will see war here in these shores. We will be in civil war. We will be persecuted. How soon is that going to take place? I have a feeling it's a lot sooner than many people realize. Regardless of who was put in office or whatever, it does not matter. Isaiah 19:1-3 says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city. What does that kind of sound like? It kind of sounds like Matthew 24, nation against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Really? And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof. And I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. Well, we seek to them now, don't we? I would have to say about 80 to 90% of today's politicians that run things in this country and in this world are involved in Luciferian doctrine. They're involved with it, so what are we seeking after? We're seeking after them to save us, aren't we? The spirit of Egypt. See, the thing is, what I like about the New Testament and what I like about the New Testament Greek is it really defines a lot of terms in a metaphorical way. So let's look at what the New Testament version of Egypt means. It means double straits, which means it was used in the flesh for something physical to form a antitype of a fulfillment in the in the New Testament. Okay, double straits. Metaphorically, Jerusalem for the Jews persecuting the Christ and his followers, Jesus Christ and his followers, which is still going on today. We got a metaphorical Jerusalem here in this country, don't we? We got a metaphorical Jerusalem there in the Middle East, don't we? Speaking of the Muslims as well. We got that spirit of Jerusalem throughout the whole world, with its epicenter, the physical city of Jerusalem. And so to be likened to the Egyptians treating the Jews. Well, what happened? Well, Exodus 1:13 and 14 says, "And the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage." What's spiritual bondage? Going after strange gods, not obeying the laws of God, the commandments, his statutes. I'm talking about the law of the Jews. I'm not talking about the Mosaic, Levitical law. I'm talking about the commandments of God, folks. We have rejected them. We have what's coming to us, and rightfully so. There's no turning back from it. We're in trouble. We're in serious trouble. On an individual basis, I say the best you can do is repent and turn to the God of the Bible and turn to Jesus Christ. Realize and believe what he did for you and start living according to his ways. So if Egypt is basically like a symbol of bondage, and it's speaking of seeking of the spirit of Egypt failing, which it will fail. Okay, it will fail at the end, but we are engulfed in the spirit of Egypt over here. This is not just talking about Egypt over there when it was overrun by Muslim Brotherhood and stuff like that. It's not just that. You can clearly see it in this passage. Look at all of the pagan practices we see today. Christmas, Easter, Halloween. And we relish in it. We crave it. We need it. Look at all the things with the health system in this nation. And also throughout the rest of the world. Eugenics, child sacrifice, abortions, all this kind of stuff, all throughout the world. Totally rejecting and forgetting the law of thy God. Wherefore, since you have rejected and forgotten the law of thy God, I will forget thy children. That's what it says in Hosea 4:6. So as a nation, we failed. We did not live up to the Great Commission that we were supposed to, that we were endowed with from the beginning. You want to know when we failed? 1776. When we allowed wicked and corrupt men, who were in these secret societies, Freemasons, Illuminati, because that was the same year the Illuminati was formed. And it's been over 300 years. Oh no, 200 and it's been over 224 years. 236 years to be exact. 236 years of rejecting God. Whereas when the Pilgrims first came over here, this was solely based on Christian principles. I'm pretty sure you had your little groups here and there. But once 1776 came around, that all changed. That all changed. And you can spit at me and throw stones at me all you want. But the fact of the matter is, now we have 501c3. And these same 501c3 churches are going out evangelizing the world when they have to go according to what the government tells them, when they have to abide by specific rules, when they can't preach on certain topics, when we have to have a license from the state to preach. We are supposed to be taking the gospel to the world. And it does not say anything about getting a license to preach. And yet, we continue to evangelize the world, spreading the false gospel, spreading the Antichrist gospel. So we failed in that regard. I'm just beginning, folks. In part 2, it's going to get very, very sobering. We are living in the spirit of Egypt. For whom a man is overcome, the same is brought into bondage. And we are in spiritual bondage as a nation, as a kingdom, as a country, as well as physical bondage. And so is the rest of the world. And the handwriting is on the wall. We have made our bed, and we have to lie in it. And the only ones that we can support is each other. We got to stop relying on these government sources. You know, prices are going to skyrocket. And when prices skyrocket, those people around you are going to look for answers. And they're not going to want to know about, God, because they don't have faith. They don't have faith in the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. They don't have faith to believe that God will provide for them. Jesus said, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? That shows you right there that wide and broad is the gate that leads to destruction. And narrow is the way, and few there be that find it, because there ain't going to be much faith here on this earth. It's not going to be that much. It's going to be total dependency upon the government and the mark of the beast, the mark of lawlessness, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. It's right in front of your face. All you have to do is look around you every day. Again, what can we see here in the coming future? More likely, very near future. This country's already gearing up for civil war, civil unrest. The world is gearing for world war. You got Israel spurting out of the mouth again with talks against striking Iran. And once Syria is overrun, that's pretty much it for the linchpin. I can almost guarantee you World War III will start. I mean, we're already at the beginning stages of World War III with all these proxy wars going on. Proxy meaning technology, technological warfare, HARP, all this kind of stuff, cyber attacks, things that you don't see that's happening every single day. Follow the money, folks, and you'll be able to see where it's coming from. Follow the money. And we vote for these people that are so highly rich and highly favored. And the love of money is the root of all evil. And we listen to politicians say, oh, I can do this for the poor, I can help the middle class, when yet the love of money is the root of all evil. Follow the money and you will see the corruption. Is it that hard to figure out? And yet we continue to support these people. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And we continue to support them by a lot of different means, really. Stop putting your trust in these folks. Stop putting your trust in man. And put your trust in God, Jehovah, Heavenly Father. And start relying on the evidence of things hoped for, or the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And come out from this bondage. Break these chains. Because only you and you alone can do it for you. No man can do it for you. No man can change you. You can't change you. Only God can change you. And if you fail to realize that, then your ultimate destination is eternity without God. So again, as a nation, we are in trouble. Dire straits. Handwriting's on the wall. And it's only a matter of time. Part 2 is going to be coming up probably tomorrow. And so until then, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.